the challenge for a lot of nonprofit leaders is that they have to try to strike that balance between passion for the mission and then doing all the things to fund the mission. And I think that's where, I get to kind of lean in, roll up our sleeves and help.
Welcome back to Brew Talks. I'm Steve Stroud, President and CEO of Roswell Inc. We're your economic development organization in the city of Roswell.
And I'm Ashley Allen, Director of Operations here at Roswell Inc. And today we have with us Carolyn Salvador, Director with Hudson Ferris. Carolyn, thanks for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here and to partner with such an amazing organization that does great things for the business community here in Roswell.
And we paid her a lot of money for that, just letting you know.
And
Roswell resident.
Roswell resident, I'm channeling you today. I
love
decided to wear
the
my vest.
The red and black, go dogs. Oh, I knew it would get her.
Not channeling Stroud fully this morning.
No, go Gators. Thank you.
Carolyn and I have an interesting introduction. She was working for a nonprofit, looking for a spot in Roswell, lived in Roswell at the time, and we helped them find a temporary spot, and which ended up being several years.
It was wonderful. I mean, I think that was probably
how we met.
Yeah, 5 years ago or so.
Except for your running around Roswell in the mornings.
You would see me and I'd wave by.
And I'd be out with the big dogs, walking the dogs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was really incredible, the help that you gave the organization I was working with to be able to find a spot. And from that spot, we were able to add staff. We grew. By the time we started, when I left about a year and a half ago, I think we grew revenues 4 to 5x.
Wow.
So really, really important. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. We're glad you stayed in Roswell.
Absolutely.
Tell us about this Hudson Ferris. I mean, we know, but we want the audience to know that this is a great asset to Roswell.
Well, thanks so much. So Hudson Ferris is a boutique fundraising consultancy that works with nonprofits in all different silos. So it could be a shelter, it could be a park, it could be an organization that works with people with developmental disabilities. And we're agnostic where we work. So we work with nonprofit organizations across the country, and we really work to be able to equip and empower nonprofit leaders with actionable insights and tactics to be able to meet the challenges that they face day to day, whether that's fundraising, helping with their messaging, trying to acquire new donors.
Foundations, you work with foundations?
We do. It's one aspect of what we do because a lot of nonprofits are trying to figure out how to diversify revenues. So one of the things that we do is we really add capacity to small organizations. So we go in and start doing research to look to see what foundations may be aligned with their mission.
Okay, all right.
And then
makes sense.
We do outreach on their behalf, and we be able to set up meetings so that they can meet those foundation directors and have a better chance of actually securing that grant.
Well, one of the things that you shared with me not that long ago that I learned about the organization is it's very strategic about those relationships and making sure that the right relationships are in the room, not only for an ask, but to educate, right? Because when you pull people together under the Hudson Ferris umbrella to meet with an organization, it's all the key players that need to be in the room for the charity.
No, absolutely. And if you think about it in a way that just donors out there thinking about how can I make an impact, you align a donor with their affinity. What do you care about, right? We all have our charities.
What's your hot button,
Right. We all care about what we have different charities and different things that we care about. So it's that alignment that's really important. The same thing with corporations and with foundations. It's got to be a partnership, and it's got to overlap with their mission. And so that's really important. I think one of the challenges and frustrations of nonprofits are that they go out and they write a lot of grant proposals, which is really time consuming. They don't have that warm introduction, and they're not really assured that they're aligned with the funding priorities of foundations or corporations. So they get a lot of no's, and that's really frustrating. So what we do is help them strategically align to give them the best chance for success.
Well, I know one of the things that makes you successful in this role is your past, your history of what you were. You were an entrepreneur, you ran your own business, and you were in the daycare business for a long time, but you also ran a state organization that really, again, had to raise money, had to and you've run a couple of organizations in the nonprofit world. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think though that history of being an entrepreneur too and having to make payroll, I always say on Friday, helps you with your customers, which are really the nonprofits.
Yeah, absolutely. Nonprofits are businesses, right?
Yes.
You know, the nonprofit's a tax designation. So we kind of come into it and we tackle it strategically. My background is fairly diverse, even though I'm so young. You know, have lived, you know, I've worked in the corporate field for
Yeah.
some time and then owned multiple businesses, and then had the opportunity once we sold the businesses to actually lead a business association and really be able to grow and diversify revenue and serve the members. And then again, had the opportunity to work on a nonprofit that was located here, but was a national nonprofit funding medical research for fragile children. So really bringing kind of all of that experience together. But Hudson Ferris team is actually manned by people like myself that have diverse backgrounds in lots of different fields in nonprofit. So we know it, we understand it.
Well, one of the things too is that Roswell uniquely has the largest concentration. We always talk about restaurants, but we also have the largest concentration of nonprofits that are registered businesses in North Fulton. And when you look at the number of nonprofits, because again, I always tell people, you know, nonprofit doesn't mean you can't make a profit. You know, you should make a profit. You want your organization to sustain the mission. So you have to make money, and it shouldn't be, you know, constantly that you're just making it to the next week. But nonprofit, as you said, is an IRS designation. What we see in Roswell is partly because of the 158-year history of a city, that a lot of the nonprofits in the region got started out of this little hometown of Roswell, and there's a lot of them still here. And I know you've been a great assistance to several of them.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, what an asset for our community to have so many nonprofits. If you really think about how nonprofits operate, it's not the work that the government's doing, and it's not the work that for-profits want to do.
Right.
And so they fill a really essential gap in our community for services, for people in the community. A lot of people that enter nonprofits, first of all, it's just an incredible group of people because they want to do great things.
Have a mission.
But the mission, right? The mission's usually the driver for people. And so the challenge for a lot of nonprofit leaders is that they have to try to strike that balance between passion for the mission and then doing all the things to fund the mission. And I think that's where, you know, I get to kind of lean in, roll up our sleeves and help. So you need to be able to fund and not just barely survive, but really thrive so that you can do more good things in the world.
Well, and you know, going back to what I said earlier about the nonprofits, we've got some really strong nonprofits: Star House, North Fulton Community Charities, Drake House, and the list goes on, right? Homestretch.
Yep.
A lot of these were faith-based or at some point Child Development Academy. You know, these were community grassroots organizations that are multi-million-dollar charities now that have, for over the last 30, 40, 50 years, some of them, served this community well. And really, from an economic development side, we see how important child care is, child education is, how important, you know, I always use this. I'll give you a great example. I had my daughter, my youngest at the time, and I think she was like 14, 15 years old. We gave a Saturday, Amy and I, my wife, and took Kate, and we went to the food pantry. And what was amazing to see was, and it was through her lenses at 14, the number of hospitality workers that we knew from restaurants locally that walked through the door. And it put a new light on it for her, right? Now she's 20. But to be able to go, oh my gosh, that's Susie. And to understand the struggles that Susie has, right? And then be able to talk about it as a family and say, yeah, we see her in that environment, and that's why we tip her, but that's not the only reason we tip her. She performs the service. But it's also understanding that this is our community, and sometimes people can't have the things that they need, and they need that extra help. Now, what I will tell you about Susie, and it's an anonymous name, and I'm not going to name the restaurant because we still see Susie. Susie bought her first house, her and her husband.
That's
But
incredible.
That
That's
was
awesome.
because of the help of
Yeah.
North Fulton Community Charities to get them through a bind.
Yeah.
So
Not-
any of these are,
I think it's great, you exposed your daughter to that. I think that helps to create kind of a lifelong appreciation for helping others
Right.
at an early age. And I think it's important for us to know that, nonprofits rely on public donations, to be able to sustain them. And, they really are trying to grow and do great things, but they can't do it, on their own. So, you have to kind of think about, and I'd encourage anyone listening to go out and think about, what you care about and find out more about the nonprofits that do that work in your community or nationally, whatever your passion aligns
Right.
with.
And jump in.
And support them in whatever level is meaningful. And you can do that with a donation. That's always greatly appreciated.
Sure.
But also, volunteer-based is talent-based.
Huge.
Giving is incredible. Businesses do in-kind donations, so there's a lot of ways to support the nonprofit organizations. And I just appreciate, our partnership and being able to help and bring education to the nonprofits in the community and arm them with information that they can go out pretty quickly and, and enact in their organizations.
So-
Yeah, Carolyn,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
You helped us kick off our nonprofit leadership program last year. We're hoping to have several more of those classes come up in 2025, which we'll announce soon. But I'm sure with all of the different nonprofits you work with, while they may all touch on different things, there are always there's overlap. No matter what your mission is, there's some just basic overlap in all of them. And what are some things that nonprofit leaders or people in a director level that can really have the ability to change organizations can go ahead and start looking at doing just on the most basic level to kind of get the ball rolling?
Well, I think you kind of nailed it when you said there's overlap. I've never met a charity that said, we have so many donors, we don't know what to do with all this money, right? Because the more money you raise, the bigger your goals.
That's right.
So I think that's important. So really what I call donor acquisition is important for all organizations because on the flip side of that, donor retention is only about 60 to 65%. So you're losing donors every single year. Lots of different reasons for that attrition, but leaders can start thinking about what are the ways that I can actually introduce and create awareness. So we think about a marketing funnel for organizations, just like any brand. How do I bring
Yeah.
people into the fold, and how do I let them become aware of the work that we do? How do I articulate the mission and the impact? And I think that's one thing that I talk to leaders about all the time is how do you really share if someone gives you $100 or $50 or whatever it is, what does that do? Because people give emotionally. It's not really a rational decision to give away your money, right? It's
right.
emotional. And you want to know that you're making an impact.
That's right.
So I think that's really important. And it's important for organizations to be able to communicate that. Because when you do, then you strike something that's kind of deep in us that we want to get involved in. So that's really, and the other piece of that is organizational leaders need to think about emotional storytelling. So
Pull at those heartstrings.
whoever your constituents are, whoever the group that you're serving, create some stories, snap some pictures, because really we want to be able to show how we're impacting one life, whether it's an animal, a person, a child,
Yeah.
and then we want to use that one person as an indication of a greater need. Right? We're helping, for moms like Carolyn, but there's many more of her, like help us help more. So I think that's really, kind of the pieces of it for leaders to think about. How do you talk about the work that you do? How do you show your impact? And then how do you acquire and importantly, keep your donors engaged?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we can't thank you enough for what you've introduced us to in growing what we call Roswell Inc. and being able to help the nonprofits because, as you said, they're businesses and we treat them like businesses. As you know, you can't. There's no membership in Roswell Inc. And what we always encourage people to do is get involved. If you want to grow your business, this is a good way and a great way to network and meet people the same way you have. So,
Especially nonprofits.
yes,
I mean,
they're always looking for that opportunity, whether it's a service or donation, but more importantly, relationships within the community that strengthen that fiber. That's kind of the theme of 2025 for us, and it's always the theme day to day, and that's relationships. You just have to strengthen those relationships, and I think once you forget that that's really a part of your mission, then it really makes it tougher.
Yeah, it makes it transactional.
That's right.
And really with donors, it should be about building a relationship and deeper levels of engagement. It's not just someone writing a check and leaving. Yes, you may get those donors, but really you want people that stay around, that care about your mission, that align with it, and that you're building this long-term relationship.
It's awesome. Well, Carolyn, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
As we enter 2025, it is exciting. There's big things happening, and watch for our nonprofit leadership.
Yeah, we look forward to the work we're going to do together this year.
We're excited about what's going to happen. So, as we always say, it's a great day to do business in Roswell. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.